The deep black space around the exploration ship Aurora was calm when everything suddenly went wrong. One moment, the ship was gliding through empty stars. The next moment, alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across every wall, and the crew felt the entire ship shake. The jump engine had misfired. They had fallen out of hyperspace too early, and into the wrong place. No one understood what they were seeing at first. The view screen showed darkness, but not the peaceful kind. Thousands of silent shapes floated all around them, blocking out the stars like a metal forest. Huge starships drifted in every direction, each one larger than any vessel humans had ever built. Some looked like knives. Some looked like floating cities. Some looked like weapons the size of continents. All of them shared the same black and silver design, cold and sharp. The Aurora crew froze. No one breathed. They had jumped into the center of a massive alien fleet. Commander Raylan stared at the screen, unable to speak. He knew the ship was tiny compared to the giants surrounding them. It was like a small boat drifting into the middle of a navy built by titans. "Scan the ships," Raylan whispered. The scanners did not give friendly answers. There was only one name flashing on the display: Vorkon Dominion Core Fleet. Every human in the room felt their stomach drop. The Vorkon Dominion was only known through rumors and distant stories. Ships that vanished near their borders. Signals that were never answered. A power so strong that other species whispered about them in fear. No one had ever seen their core fleet and lived to tell the story. They were in the wrong place. Terribly, dangerously wrong. The Aurora tried to retreat. The jump engine spun up, groaning and shaking the ship. But then, a sharp crack echoed through the hull. The engine died. The jump coil had burned out. They were stuck. A shadow moved across the screen of ship, so large it made the others seem small. A single Vorkon dreadnought turned slowly toward the Aurora. Energy lines glowed along its surface like veins of blue fire. It was preparing weapons. Raylan raised a trembling hand. "Open comms. Now?" He forced his voice to stay calm. "This is the human vessel Aurora. We come in peace. We made a mistake. Do not fire." For a long moment, no reply came. Then a voice answered, deep, cold, and emotionless. "Humans, unknown species. Weak technology. No threat." The dreadnought's weapon systems went dark. But instead of leaving them alone, dozens of smaller Vorkon ships began moving toward the Aurora. Their claws and docking arms unfolded like metal spiders. The message continued: "You will be collected. You will be studied." Raylan felt a chill run down his spine. Humans were not seen as enemies. They were not even seen as dangerous. They were seen as creatures as the boarding ships approached. The crew silently watched Deathor captured draw closer. Raylan whispered, barely loud enough for anyone to hear, "We stumbled into a giant's shadow. And now we're the underdogs." The Aurora shook as the Vorkon boarding ships locked onto its hull. Metallic claws dug in with loud cracks that echoed through every deck. The human crew stood ready, though no one truly knew what ready meant against a galactic superpower. They held stun rifles, tools, even fire extinguishers, anything that could be used as a weapon if needed. Fear made their hands tremble, but they refused to collapse. The first boarding door melted open. A bright red beam cut a perfect circle into the metal, and the plate fell inward with a heavy clang. Through the opening stepped the first Vorkon. He was huge. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, with armor that looked fused to his body like a dark second skin. His face was hidden behind a helmet shaped like a predatory bird, with glowing blue slits for eyes. The air itself seemed to bend around him, as if gravity respected his strength. Behind him came more Vorkon soldiers, walking in perfect formation. The Aurora crew backed away. They knew they couldn't fight. Commander Raylan raised his hands. "We surrender. Please, no harm." The lead Vorkon tilted his helmeted head, studying the small humans the way someone might examine tiny insects. His voice came through a translator, deep and metallic. "Surrender accepted. You will be transferred to Dominus Prime for classification." Classification. The word did not sound good. The humans were escorted off their own ship, surrounded by armored giants. The corridors felt narrower with every step. Fear pushed against their lungs. But they walked anyway. Soon they reached a large chamber where a glowing ring opened in the air. It hummed softly like a peaceful machine hiding a dangerous secret. "A portal," whispered one of the crew. The Vorkan soldier answered without emotion. "Instant transfer. Move." One by one, the humans stepped through the portal. They emerged onto Dominus Prime, the heart of the Vorkon Dominion. The station stretched farther than the eye could see. Platforms, towers, and bridges hung in empty space, connected by beams of light. Ships drifted in and out of massive docks, each one larger than the last. The scale was overwhelming. Every structure, every hallway, every piece of machinery was shaped for Vorkan size. Humans felt tiny like children lost in a giant's fortress. They were quickly guided into a long hall with glowing screens. Strange machines scanned them from head to toe. A cold robotic voice delivered the results. Species: human. Classification: primitive level 2. Biological value: moderate. Technological value: low threat potential, minimal. The last line stung most. Humanity had always fought for survival. They had built starships, crossed stars, and dreamed of meeting other species. But here, in the heart of the galaxy's strongest empire, they were nothing more than a small number in a giant's chart. A Vorkan officer approached, taller, heavier, and more decorated than the soldiers. His armor glowed with gold markings. He studied the humans with slow, thoughtful eyes. "No species has ever entered our core uninvited," he said. "You walk into the lion's den with boldness. Or ignorance. Perhaps both." His tone was not cruel. Not kind. Simply curious. Raylan lifted his head slightly. Despite the fear, despite the humiliation, he refused to bow. "We came by accident. But we will not be broken." The Vorkan officer gave a sound like a soft laugh. "We will see if that is true." The judgment had begun. The humans were marched through the enormous halls of Dominus Prime until they reached a giant arena built deep inside the station. The ceiling curved so high above their heads that it vanished into shadows. Dozens of bright lights circled the edges, pointing down like the eyes of silent watchers. Inside the arena stood other alien species tall, short, armored, furry, scaled, each one looking stronger than humans. Some hissed, some clicked, some growled. All of them stepped back when Vorkon guards approached, showing clear fear. Commander Raylan noticed it immediately. "These creatures fear the Vorkon," he whispered to his crew. "And soon, maybe they'll see us the same way," another human muttered, though it sounded more like a plea. A loud horn echoed across the arena. A giant hologram flared to life above them. Strength trials evaluation begins. The Vorkon officer from earlier, the one with gold markings, stepped forward onto a raised platform. His voice boomed across the chamber. "Every new species must face the strength trials. We test your durability, teamwork, and resistance to fear. Fail, and you will be classified as unfit. Pass, and you will earn limited respect, but remain under Vorkan rule." Humans exchanged nervous looks. They had never trained for alien tests. They had never even met aliens before today. But they had one advantage. Humans were stubborn. Humans adapted fast. Humans worked together. The first trial began. A section of the floor opened, and metal pillars rose from below. Each pillar flashed red, then shot a focused burst of energy across the arena. Aliens scattered. Some dove behind shields. Others sprinted wildly. Humans couldn't match their speed. Instead, they formed a tight group Raylon at the front. 2 engineers spotting from the sides, and medic Flores guiding them to cover. They moved like a small unit, protecting each other, calling warnings. Pulling slower members forward. The Vorkon watched this with interest. Unusual, one muttered. They rely on cooperation, not speed or strength. Next came the endurance trial. Walls closed in, forcing every species into narrow lanes where rotating machines spun sharp, glowing discs. Many aliens used their natural armor to shield themselves. Humans had no armor, no claws, nothing but their clothes. But they had creativity. Use the jackets. Raylan shouted in seconds. Humans wrapped their heavy ship jackets around their arms and used them like shields. Sparks flew. Fabric burned. But they moved forward, one painful step at a time. Refusing to stop, some aliens stared in disbelief. One whispered, they hurt themselves. On purpose? Why? The third trial was the most feared. The Beast Run. A massive gate opened. Akasa stepped out for legs, armored plating, glowing eyes, and a roar that shook the arena walls. Many species fled instantly. Humans did not. They couldn't outrun it. They couldn't overpower it. But they could outthink it. Raylan shouted, split up. Confuse it? The humans broke in 5 directions. The beast hesitated, unsure which small target to chase. Humans regrouped behind a pillar, using the environment instead of brute force. The Vorkan officer leaned forward. These humans. They fight as if they refuse to die. When the trials ended, the arena fell silent. The humans were bruised, sweating, exhausted, but still standing. A Vorkan judge spoke. Evaluation complete. Humans possess unusual qualities. Weak bodies. Weak technology. Strong will. The gold-marked officer added quietly. The gold-marked officer added quietly. And strong danger. If underestimated. For the first time, the Vorkan did not look at humans like insects. They looked at them like a puzzle. And puzzles, always, demand attention. The humans were returned to a holding area after the strength trials. The room was large, cold, and brightly lit, with metal benches arranged in straight rows. It felt like a waiting room built by giants. The humans sat together, bruised, tired, and confused, but also strangely proud. They had survived something impossible. Still, something about the atmosphere felt wrong. Vorkon guards moved quickly through the halls, speaking in low, tense tones. The lights flickered now and then. Distant alarms hummed for a moment, then faded. Commander Raylan noticed everything. "This station is stressed," he said quietly. "Something's happening here." "Maybe it's us," joked one of the engineers, trying to stay positive. But Raylan shook his head. "No, this is bigger." Their answer came sooner than expected. A door slid open, and the gold-marked Vorkon officer entered. His presence filled the room instantly. The humans straightened, unsure if he was here to congratulate them or punish them. His blue eyes scanned the group carefully. "You performed better than expected," he said. "Better than most species we classify at your level." Raylan nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "Thank you. We only did what we had to." The officer's voice lowered. "And now you must do more." The humans exchanged uneasy looks. "What do you mean?" Raylan asked. The officer gestured for them to follow. With no other choice, they walked behind him through winding hallways. After several minutes, they entered a dimly lit control chamber filled with floating screens and moving star maps. Large Vorkon commanders stood around a central table. their armor glowing with red warning symbols. A hologram exploded into view above the Tabala, massive swarm of ships moving across the galaxy like a dark cloud. These ships, the officer explained, belong to the Zyran Collective, our oldest enemy. The humans stepped closer, stunned by the scale. The Zyran fleet stretched so far that it wrapped around the map like a living storm. We have known war with them for centuries. The officer continued. But now, they gather again, and this time they come for us. Raylan frowned. What does it have to do with humanity? We're not involved in this war. Not yet, the officer said. But your timing is unfortunate. He tapped the display. Another hologram appeared, a small human ship labeled Aurora. When your ship arrived in our core space, the Zyran Collective detected the disturbance. They now know a new species exists. They believe you might become allies to us, or fuel for them. The humans felt cold dread settle over them. We're stuck between two superpowers. A crew member whispered, double quotes, yes, the officer said. And neither side cares whether you live or die. That is why humans must be studied quickly. Classified. Understood. Raylan stepped forward, anger rising despite the danger. We are not tools. We are not weapons. And we will not be used in your war. The officer paused. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in interest. Strong words, he said. But words do not change your situation. You are in the center of a storm far larger than yourselves. He leaned closer, and storms do not wait. A sudden alarm blared through the chamber. The screens flashed red. The Zyran fleet had moved, and for the first time, the humans realized something terrifying. The Vorkan Empire was not invincible, and they were trapped inside it. The alarm kept echoing through Dominus Prime as the humans were rushed out of the control chamber. Red lights flashed along every wall, turning the metal corridors into rivers of shifting crimson. Vorkan soldiers moved in tight formations, preparing for orders. Technicians shouted to each other, their voices sharp with fear. The station felt alive, trembling under the weight of an approaching war. The humans, however, were pushed aside like luggage. Raylan tried to question a guard. What's happening? Where are you taking us? Silence, the Vorkan soldier barked. All Level 2 species are being moved to secure chambers. Secure chambers. Medic Flores muttered. Sounds like cages. A chill passed through the group. The Vorkan were not thinking about protecting humanity. They were thinking about controlling humanity. If the Zyran Collective attacked, the Vorkan might use the humans as bait, as shields, or as bargaining chips. Raylan slowed his steps, letting the others gather behind him. He lowered his voice. We can't let them lock us away. Once we're in a secure chamber, we'll never get out. But what can we do? One engineer whispered. Raylan leaned closer. We escape. Everyone stared at him as if he had asked them to fight a black hole. Raylan, we're inside the strongest station ever built, Flores said. How can we escape? T nodded. By not fighting their strength, but by slipping through their weaknesses. Just then, the corridor shook violently. Distant explosions rolled through the station. The Zyran fleet had begun its attack run. The Vorkan guards shifted their attention, listening to new orders coming through their helmets' COMMs. This was the moment. A tiny window of chaos. Raylan spoke fast and quiet. There's a maintenance network under the station. I saw it in the control room holograms. The Vorkan use it for repairs. It connects to storage hangars and our ship is in one of them. An engineer's eyes widened. If we reach the maintenance tunnels, no one will notice us. Exactly. Another explosion rumbled through the floor and a section of the corridor darkened. Emergency doors slid halfway shut before jamming. Raylan didn't hesitate. Through there. Move. The humans ducked under the half-closed door and slipped into a side hallway. It was narrow, dim, and clearly not meant for visitors. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Steam hissed from vents. But it was empty and that made it perfect. The group moved fast, guided by Raylan's memory of the hologram. After several turns, they reached a circular hatch marked with alien symbols. Maintenance Sector C, Flores read aloud. "We found it." They pulled the hatch open, revealing a tall ladder leading into darkness. One by one, the humans climbed down. Below them, the maintenance tunnels stretched for miles. Strange lights flickered along the walls. Machines hummed in the shadows. The air smelled of heated metal and old coolant. But it was quiet, and quiet meant hope as they moved deeper. They passed a small Vorkan worker repairing a pipe. The aliens stared at them with wide eyes. He was smaller than a soldier and unarmored, clearly part of the labor caste. Before he could shout, Raylan raised his hands. "We don't want trouble." The worker blinked. Then he whispered, "Go, before soldiers come." "You're helping us?" Flores asked. The worker glanced around nervously. "Empire is cruel. You want freedom? I understand." It was the first kindness humans had received in the Dominion. The crew hurried onward, hearts pounding. They were tired. They were scared, but they were no longer trapped. They were escaping for the first time since arriving in Vorkan space. The humans felt something powerful, a spark of rebellion. The maintenance tunnels shook as another distant explosion rippled through Dominus. Prime dust drifted down from overhead pipes. The humans kept moving, their footsteps echoing in the narrow metal passage. Every sound, every creak, every thud made them flinch. Somewhere far above them, the Vorkan Empire and the Zyran Collective were tearing into each other with forces beyond human understanding. But the humans had only one goal. Reach the hangar. Reach the Aurora. Escape. The Vorkan worker who helped them had given a simple warning. Soldiers patrol near the hangars. Be invisible. Raylan repeated it in his mind with every step. After several minutes of tense walking, the tunnel opened into a large chamber full of pipes, cables, and humming generators. A soft blue glow lit the space. An engineer pointed at a circular lift platform. This must lead up to the hangar levels. Raylan checked the control panel. The buttons were labeled in Vorkan symbols, but one glowed brighter than the others. "This one," he said. "Brace yourselves." He pressed it. The lift hummed, then shot upward with surprising speed. Humans grabbed the railings, holding on as the wind rushed around them. After a long climb, the platform stopped with a clang. A narrow door slid open. Beyond it lay the hangar access halls, wide, busy, and dangerous. Raylan peered around the corner. Vorkan soldiers sprinted in one direction, responding to new orders. Technicians shouted while moving large crates. Sirens wailed. The Zyran attack was creating chaos everywhere. "Perfect, double quotes, stay close," Raylan whispered. "We blend in with the noise." They slipped out of the tunnel entrance and moved like shadows between cargo containers. The floor rumbled beneath them, and the air smelled of burning metal. Humans kept their heads low and their pace steady. Then Flores stopped, pointing. There, across the hangar floor, behind a row of armored vehicles, sat the Aurora. Damaged panels. Missing parts. But unmistakably, there's home. A sudden wave of relief washed over them. But that relief lasted only a second. A squad of Vorkan soldiers stood guard around the ship. Raylan's heart sank. We need a distraction. Something big. An engineer raised a hand. "I can overload one of the power relays. The spark will set off a chain of small explosions. Nothing deadly, but loud enough to pull guards away." Raylan nodded. "Do it." The engineer crawled into a nearby access hatch. A few seconds later, There was a sharp pop. Then another. Then a burst of blue light. A thunderous boom shook the entire hangar. Vorkon soldiers shouted and ran toward the explosion. Go. Raylan ordered. Go. Raylan ordered. The humans sprinted across the floor. Their footsteps were lost in the echo of alarm sirens. They reached the Aurora just as the guards disappeared around the corner. Inside, the ship felt familiar, yet wounded. Lights flickered. Systems groaned. Can we fly this thing? Flores asked. We don't have a choice, Raylan said, sliding into the captain's chair. Powering up now. The engines sputtered once. Twice, then roared to life with a burst of warm orange glow as the ship lifted from the ground. A figure appeared at the hangar entrance. It was the gold-marked Vorkon officer. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't shout. He simply watched them. Then he did something none of them expected. He lifted his right hand and gave a slow, deliberate nod. A silent salute. Raylan stared back, stunned. Is he letting us go? No one knew, but they didn't wait to ask. The Aurora shot forward, engines blazing. Heading for the hangar exit, they were almost free, almost because the galaxy wasn't done with them yet. The Aurora burst out of the Vorkon hangar like a comet. Engines blazing bright orange in the darkness. The station loomed behind them, Dominus Prime. A giant of metal and power now trembling under the fury of the Zyran attack. Explosions rippled across its surface as enemy ships struck with ruthless precision. Inside the Aurora, alarms blared. Panels sparked. The ship shook from the strain of flying before full repairs were complete. But the humans didn't slow down. They couldn't. Shields at 20%. One engineer shouted. We don't have shields, Raylan replied. That's the hull screaming. The crew didn't laugh. There was no time. A group of Zyran fighters turned toward them, drawn to the sudden movement of a small, unfamiliar ship. Incoming. Flores cried. Raylan pushed the Aurora's controls forward, diving between floating debris. The Zyran fighters fired beams of green light. Missiles streaked past, exploding against broken metal. The Aurora weaved through chaos like a desperate fish fleeing predators. Raylan, we can't keep this up, Flores warned. We don't need to, he answered. We just need one jump. One clean jump. The problem was simple and deadly. Their jump engine had been broken earlier. The repairs they completed were fast, messy, and nothing close to perfect. Charging jump coil, an engineer reported. But it might explode. Everything might explode. Raylan snapped back. Keep charging. Behind them, Dominus Prime released a shockwave of blue lights, a massive weapon, firing at the Zyran fleet. The shockwave spread like a ripple through space, slamming into nearby ships, including the Aurora. The small human vessel spun wildly, alarms screaming in pain. Stabilize! Stabilize! Raylan yelled. The ship leveled out. Barely then, something unexpected happened. A massive shadow passed over Hida Vorkon dreadnought. The same one that had first captured them. It moved directly between the Aurora and the Zyran fighters. Blocking their path. Are they? Shielding us? Flores whispered. A message flashed on their screen. Vorkon symbols. Then translated words, humans, run. Raylan felt shock, gratitude, and confusion collide inside him. But there was no time to question it. Jump engine ready. The engineer shouted. Mostly. Mostly is enough, Raylan said. He slammed the jump control. A bright white light filled the cockpit. The ship lurched. Space folded inward like a collapsing tunnel. Then silence. The Aurora drifted in the calm darkness of an empty starfield. No Zyran ships. No Vorkon dreadnoughts. No alarms, just peace. The crew let out long, shaky breaths. Some laughed nervously. Some cried quietly. Some stared out the window at the distant stars, amazed they were still alive. Raylan finally spoke, voice soft but steady. "We made it. We're clear. Where are we?" An engineer asked. The navigation computer flickered, showing a small, glowing dot, a familiar one. A shocked smile spread across Flores' face. "It's Earth. We're close." The crew looked at the tiny blue symbol on the screen. Home, safety, everything. They had almost lost. Raylan opened the ship's recorder and began. Speaking. Message to Earth Command. This is Commander Raylan of the Aurora. We have encountered a galactic superpower known as the Vorkon Dominion, and an even greater threat called the Zyran Collective. He paused, then continued with quiet strength. We are outmatched by both. But humans survived. We resisted. And we escaped. This galaxy is bigger and darker than we ever imagined. But we will not run from it. We will grow. We will adapt. We will rise. Flores rested a hand on his shoulder. You really think humanity can stand up to all that? Raylan looked out at the stars, silent, ancient, waiting. We're the underdogs, he said. Underdogs always fight the hardest. The Aurora turned toward Earth and began its long journey home, carrying the first humans to ever stand inside a galactic empire, and the first to defy it. And somewhere far behind them, in the struggling heart of Dominus Prime, a gold-marked Vorkon officer watched the stars and whispered a single word: humans. Not as an insult, not as a warning, but as a possibility.